Absolum.
Yeah, I was like, I know of a different Absolum, but it's spelled differently. And I was like, I don't know how to find this game.
What's sad is I had somehow seen it before, and I was just like, I know exactly how to spell that and what game
Nice.
you're talking about. I have like a weird photographic memory when it comes to like that kind of stuff. Even with like patients at the office, like I'll just be like, oh yeah, I'm plugging in their birthday, their name. And I'm like, I looked at it one time. How do I remember this shit?
That's pretty good.
Now sometimes, but then I walk back. I literally am like, all right, I got to go back and grab some retainer cases, and then I get like halfway to my destination, and I'm like, I don't know what the fuck I came back here for. I'm just standing in the lab
Because you
and then
thought
I walk
about something
back up
else
front.
in the meantime.
Exactly, or I saw something else, or I'm like, oh
Yes.
shit,
I have to go do that. Yeah.
When I go back up front, I got to do that. Mm-hmm. That's so true. Hey everybody, welcome to Pursuing Pixels. My name's Kevin Portelli, and I'm here tonight with John Hines
Hey there.
and Randall Nolery.
Hey, folks.
And we've got the full crew in the house once again, and I guess a whole bunch of video game stuff to talk about per usual. And I'm just running out of stuff to say on these intros here before we get rolling into the video game action. But I don't know anything you guys want to mention before we just get right into the games here.
No, we're in the house.
Good deal, good deal. Well, yeah, John, why don't you take the lead here since I got a little bit of like an update on a game that I think you mentioned a little bit last time.
Yeah. So I was mostly talking about this game, Severed Steel by Greylock Studio, in comparison to their other game, which I had been playing more of at the time, which was Echo Point Nova. And the comparisons I was kind of going with was like, oh, they had different sense of scale and different sense of speed. And then when I went back and started playing more of Severed Steel, I realized how wrong I was on my like initial description of it. Like, not entirely. I think there is still very much, like I talked about on the previous episode, like an emphasis on like solutions to levels and sort of like score chasing, leaderboards, that aspect. But for whatever reason, I had just really not clocked that this game is all about bullet time. And that was a mechanic that I had not really been engaging with, as I realized that I think I was still maybe stuck on the first level, maybe because I hadn't figured out how to engage bullet time or play on a difficulty that like. But what I ended up doing was playing on the tempered steel difficulty as opposed to the severed steel difficulty, where anytime you do a trick, which is jumping, sliding, wall running, you like automatically engage in bullet time. And it just immediately changes the pace of the game because you're trying to then like line up trick shots up to the point where you're like chaining a wall run into a like a slide where you're also like throwing your guns after you've emptied the clip. There's no ammo in this game, so anytime that you are done with a gun, you throw it at an enemy. It becomes a weapon in itself, and then you pick up guns off of defeated enemies, or if you slide through an enemy, you can steal their gun, or if you get them in midair, you can take their gun from midair. Like, it's all about these
Good stuff.
hypermobile stuff that they were doing in Echo Point Nova, but all in this super slow-mo compared to Echo Point Nova, which is all about speed. But that also has a bullet time mechanic, which I've realized now that I've never engaged with. And so it's watching like how much more there is to this game or this game series, or sort of a piece of each other. Like, they're fascinating and they're really fun. Like, I was reading a little bit of an interview with the developer and how he was talking that he was really like honing in on, he called them millennial shooters to get them separated from boomer shooters, and like took a lot of inspiration from Max Payne and Fear and some other things. And like also,
I can see that looking at the trailer right now. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Especially Fear. Yeah, that's a great touch point. And it's funny that you like everything you're mentioning now to like on this follow up here is I think I mentioned like in passing, like, oh, it sounds more like, Severed Steel is a little more like Super Hot, where it's like you solve the solution to the puzzle, and like the gameplay even more so. Cause I think in Super Hot, if I'm remembering correctly, there was like no ammo. You had like just like 3 shots with a pistol, and then your last shot, you're just chucking it at somebody, and then you kill an enemy and their, weapon just flies into the air, and then you grab it and, start, and just looking at the trailer again quickly here, it's like, it does look it looks like a more mobile version of Super Hot kind of. Now, again, not to oversell it, but you're really making me want to check this game out. Both of these games out for that matter.
And the thing that I've really liked about Severed Steel in particular, which makes it a little bit easier than like the open world-ness of Echo Point Nova, whereas like Severed Steel is a campaign where every level is just in sequential like order. Once you beat one level, you move to the next one. And like, that's what the campaign is just playing every single level. Whereas Echo Point Nova has these like, he was also like bringing up that like he was thinking of the Sky Islands and Tears of the Kingdom of like, you have these locations that you want to make it like fun to traverse in between, and like having a hyper mobile hoverboard will get you to a level. And like each of those islands are their own like self-contained levels, but you can start them at any time or visit them in any order, as opposed to like Severed Steel, where it's like, all right, you want to play this level? Like then you go to the next one, and then they have a firefight mode, which is just a level select. And the higher your level in that is, the more access you have to the levels that you play in the game. So I'm a little bummed out because I think I need to be like level 40 in order to unlock my favorite level, and I'm at like level 30, and you will level up by completing the levels and playing the game, but it's not a like 1-to-1. So
that's weird.
So I am doing a bit of like score chasing, and like saying like, all right, well, now I've unlocked a couple modifiers. Like, I turned on big head mode so that I could get all the achievements with the headshots and get those cleared out of the way. And like maybe make it a little bit easier to get the challenge where I have to do a headshot while doing a flip or be upside down in midair. And like, it's really, I think they're really like special games in terms of the way that like, I don't know, they're fun FPSs that I haven't played too many like them, even though I don't think that their influences necessarily are that uncommon, but the stuff that they're pulling from to make these games, I think, is really unique.
And like putting it together in like a perfect combination of all of those elements or something. I don't want to say perfect again, having not played it and not to oversell it, but like, everything you're saying and then watching the trailers, and it's worth mentioning too, both of these games have 95+%, positive reviews on Steam.
Yeah.
With like over 5,000 reviews or near 5,000 reviews. So that's not easy to do.
No,
to have a game that is that, consistently, basically given like 100% by people on Steam. That's pretty impressive.
And they have a bunch of these like modifiers baked into like the firefight mode that they have like these daily runs where it's like, all right, well, in this one you have no ammo, so you are only throwing guns or something ridiculous. That's the daily challenge that you do. And it's a fun way to keep it fresh, to push you out of your comfort zone, maybe get you to try a couple things. I will say like the biggest downside in comparison from it to Echo Point Nova is the fact that you have no ammo. So basically every time that you have a gun, you have it for maybe 10 shots, and that's not enough time to get any familiarity with any of them. So like, I'm still waiting to have any like understanding of like the differences between the dozens of guns that are in this game, and I'm like, I can't tell you what's different between any of these. I can't tell you what I'm holding at any given moment, and I'm not really thinking about it when I'm just picking up whatever I'm given.
Yes.
Yeah, that's one area, not to keep bringing up Super Hot, but that's one area where that game really shined, because it was just basically like a pistol, and the pistol does the one thing, and like you could get like a sword or a katana or whatever, but like there were only a handful of different things, and you just knew, hey, this one does this, and you know, you could quickly learn, hey, this has this much ammo, even though they're not telling you. You know, you could just kind of learn over time, but
right.
Man, you're selling me on these games hard, like I said, and I've actually seen, I might have mentioned this before too, but I've seen Severed Steel, like physical copies of it on Switch at the game shops the last couple times I've gone. That's nice. And I believe I like kind of brushed over it because I was like, oh, John said he like kind of liked this one, but he wasn't, you know, as into it. But that was before you've mentioned it these last couple times, and now that I've watched it, I'm like, oh man, I might. You know, who knows how it'll run on Switch, because it does look like a relatively flashy and fast-paced, you know, looks like a game that would benefit from being in a nice, snappy, you know, high and consistent frame rate. But
yeah, I definitely hear the Steam Deck whirring while I'm playing this.
Okay. Good to know. But yeah, I'm glad you gave that one another shot and ended up speaking to you.
100%.
Heck yeah. But if you're good to leave that one there, I think we can kick it over to Randall here for kind of a game. At least for me, I'm always tracking what you guys are playing on, like, you know, Switch and stuff. This one came out of nowhere as far as I'm concerned. Like, I was like, I didn't know Randall was even aware of this game, let alone was playing it. So
yeah,
I'm excited to hear about this one.
Yeah, and also along the theme too that John was talking about, getting stuck in the beginning, kind of first level sort of stuff before. But I'm going to talk about Absolum. So this came to me, you know, I've actually heard on other podcasts they were talking about this, but then it got released on Game Pass. So
oh, nice.
Tina and I have been able to play just a few times, so just kind of given still pretty first/early impressions of Absolum. But you know, it is a, you know, roguelike side-scrolling beat 'em up. It is made by .emu or .mu, however you want to pronounce that, / Guard Crush Games, who were involved with Streets of Rage 4, one of the games I hold in very high esteem in the beat 'em up genre in a modern context. So, and I didn't really realize that aspect of it going in. I just heard, you know, some people that I trust were buzzing about it. And then being on Game Pass and still having Game Pass basically through more or less the end of this year, I'm like, oh yeah, I mean, I'll install it. That's fine. It looks pretty. The art itself
definitely does. Yeah.
Pretty fantastic. Which is the art is done by Supa Monks. I think it's like did the art direction and animation, which is very well done.
Yeah.
There's a lot that kind of brings it to life that way. And you know, off the bat, I will say it feels quite good to play like Streets of Rage 4. It's
nice.
Kind of came to me pretty immediately that way. I was even reading a bit about this game in preparation to talk about it here, and the developers said some of their sources of inspiration for this were Golden Axe, but more crucially, Dungeons and Dragons Shadow over Mystara, which, you know, the Japanese-only Sega Saturn beat 'em up that had a lot of story elements and branching paths, and was more involved than your average beat 'em up in 1995 or whatever. That ended up coming to Xbox Live Arcade down the road, and that's like how it officially got an English release, you know, a decade or probably more than a decade, probably more like 15 years after that point. That's how I became familiar with that and the game that came previous, Tower of something or another. It's always a 2-pack that way, but there's a lot of DNA there for how the game feels, the branching paths, a story-driven beat 'em up, which I wasn't necessarily expecting. So there's a lot they do there, including a lot of really pretty well done voice acting in this too, which I wasn't expecting, and a lot of very pretty cut scenes and your ability to like optionally, go look. I was like, oh, there's like, you can inspect this vista if you, walk with your character over here and press the given button. And then like it does a thing and you'll get a really nice voice acted, paragraph about it, and they'll kind of show it off. And there's a lot of that sort of thing where there's, some well done lore that's not too far under the surface if you want to engage with that sort of thing. But, more or less you also don't have to, because at the core, we're talking about a roguelike beat 'em up where you're meant to play through runs. And you absolutely are meant to play through runs, because I'll say the first 2 times that Tina and I played Absolum, we did not beat effectively the first main boss. Like, we got through a bunch of stages in the, run, as it were. But, and you can even take a couple of different pathways to begin with that'll define like, oh, do you want this like beachy style one, or do you want this kind of like inside the castle themed area? And you can choose that to kind of start your run at the beginning. I'm sure there'll be other themed runs if we can manage to unlock further, but we just did that on kind of what the default seemingly the most inviting one, which was this kind of beachy path that like there's this boss at the end of, and there's not a lot of health recovery happening on the front side, and enemies are quick to hit you, but not in an unfair way, just in a like, you got to be on your fucking toes, like, and you have the ability to dash and avoid, and it feels kind of like Streets of Rage 4, where there's some, actual fighting game DNA in, how involved you need to be. You can't just kind of sit back and play this. You kind of have to be a little bit more leaned into it to be successful and use everything that's available to you in that way.
Yeah.
So, again, we were also using the Xbox arcade sticks, because beat 'em up, I feel like you're legally mandated to if you have them. So we've been doing that, and that feels good too. Although there's a lot of, there's a lot going on here, a la the fighting game DNA, where you have kind of a light attack and more of a heavy attack strike sort of thing, along with a dash and a jump that you can then turn into, of course, aerial attacks and things like that, and that are crucial against certain types of enemies or others. And then you have this arcana that's kind of your main super attack that could also add to some passive abilities dependent on the character that you choose. When you start out, you can choose to be either this kind of elf lady with a sword that's got some like wizard powers, or your traditional kind of dwarf character that you have to have if you're making a game like this. In rare form, actually, Tina was the dwarf this time and not me. I'm almost always choosing the big dwarf character that's big and dumb and smashes thing with the big axe. So not this time. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I'm like, especially in this third time we went around, where we're like, all right, let's start this a little bit earlier. Let's really like get a handle on all of our abilities. Now we kind of know what to expect to some degree. And then I realized, oops, we collected all these crystals. I should have been using these crystals to unlock, abilities, and, now, aerial attacks do 15% more damage. Oh, now when you get to that one resting pool where you can heal up to some degree, it's going to heal us a little bit more or increase our HP. Okay. I didn't do any of those things. So we were effectively playing as hard as we possibly could. That second time in particular that we went through. Yeah. So that helped our cause to defeat that first, boss, then playing through subsequently after I realized like, oh, no, Knucklehead, engage with all the systems. Actually talk to these other characters in this town area first. Like, don't just run back in. Like, actually engage with the game fully. So that helped the cause that way too. But that was like, oh, okay. Now I'm understanding all of the interlocking systems, and now I see the reinforcing cycle of the roguelike of it all this way too, where, okay, more success begets more success to get more crystals to unlock, more powerful starting points and ability to survive down the line. Like a lot of any good beat 'em up, you can also pick up items you can throw or attack with, and there's ways that you can increase your inventory space with some of these ritual crystals and passives and stuff. But I'm really into it. I think we're probably going to play quite a bit more of this game. I want to see quite a bit more of this game.
Nice.
I definitely put it above something like that Marvel Cosmic whatever beat 'em up game that I talked about not too terribly long ago. This is definitely more in my wheelhouse, and I think Tina's too. So yeah, it's pretty good. I'm pretty impressed with the polish on this thing too. So Absolum.
That's saying a lot coming from you, because I would say you're probably the biggest beat 'em up guy out of the three of us here. By probably a pretty big long shot. And it's just so nice though. Like I like beat 'em ups just fine, but like I love Turtles in Time is probably my favorite of like the retro ones. But like really, when I'm ripping through that game, it's mostly because I'm loving the pixel art and the music, and I'm really just doing that jump and the diagonal kick like the whole entire game. Like I'm not really. I get like pissed when I hit it too early, and I'm just doing that floaty like I'm usually playing as Donatello, and I'm just like waving my bow around like an idiot. I'm like, no, do the diagonal kick. That's all I want to do. And then it just and even especially if you're playing the actual arcade versions, that was mostly on the Super Nintendo, but like you're pumping in quarters, and this game is like the game is not designed for there to be a strategic way to like dodge attacks and like you can get hits. Better at them, sure, but like in those games you didn't have a dash or a dodge or anything like that, so it's just like, okay, let me spam my special that's going to eat away at my health bar. And just like it was all about, as I'm not saying anything revolutionary here, obviously it's just about eating up quarters when it comes to arcades, but even the Super Nintendo and the console iterations of those, they were like slightly better, but like they were just still kind of rinse and repeat and just button mashers, where nowadays these are like button mashers with a little thought behind them. Like you do have to like be on your toes at all times and
definitely
be reacting to just like what enemies are on the screen, and like you're just not button mashing, and it just makes it so much more satisfying to take enemies down as opposed to just going through the game to see the scenery and hear the sounds.
Agree. Yeah, no, this game in particular is definitely not button mashy much at all. In fact, I think you'll get punished if you try to do that too much on like the same button. There's an underlying kind of combo system that's at play here, kind of similar to Streets of Rage 4 also had this, that you kind of need to learn to get better at. And when you do get better at, the game rewards you by providing you, more points or currency or, these ritual shards or whatever else too. And if you're trying to just no brainer it, you'll get put down pretty quickly here, because your health bar does not take much to take some huge chunks out of it. You can just be a little bit too far away from an enemy, and it's like, shit, they're gonna I missed with my sword slice. Here they come bashing into me, and now I'm gonna take probably a few hits because of this. And now is this run even gonna be successful at this point? Like. It's like that, it's so there's some involvement here that I really appreciate, just evolution of this subgenre.
Yeah. And the fact that it's a roguelike where it's like, it sounds like even the starting point's not the same every time. So it's like, a lot of those beat 'em ups, again, they're like super hard. So it's like, I'm only seeing the first 3 or 4 levels before I run out of continues. And that's all I'm ever going to see of this game. And it's always going to start out exactly the same. Right. And, I really do like that. And the fact, I think you mentioned that it's a little bit, got some story going on too. Definitely. So it's not just like arcadey beat your head against the wall roguelike. It's like, there's kind of leaning into the Hades of it all.
Yeah.
It sounds like a little bit. So
even where losing is kind of part of the story too, to some degree. Also, they kind of bake all of that in too. And it sounds in just kind of doing a bit of research, I'm like, and it even looks like there might be like a character to unlock and some other things that are in there too that we have not had access to. So there's a lot here. I'm definitely pretty happy with it. It's, especially getting to try it out through Game Pass. So
nice,
good stuff. Absolum.
Yeah, it seems like a perfect Game Pass game, but definitely one that now that you've kind of sold it here, I'm definitely going to consider scooping it up on Switch or Switch 2 or whatever it's available on.
Yeah, I'll end up buying it on something myself too.
Yeah, it's a great looking game too. Yeah, that, like you mentioned, the artwork is just fantastic. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it does. It looks great. Like the whole audio visual is very well done.
Yeah. And not to just like go back to Cuphead, but like it's so cool that we live in a time where we can play games that have this kind of animation to them, but that still still play really well
Yes.
as well. Because that was just like, back in the day, that was just a done deal. If a game looked this good, it's going to play kind of rigidly and a little bit stiff.
Yes.
And it's just so cool to play like a fluid action game with this kind of, presentation.
Yeah, you had to make the choice, one or the other, back in the day, and that is no longer the case. You can have that fluid animation and the beauty and whatever, and also have it still be gameplay forward. So it's legit.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
definitely bumping up my list a little bit as far as like my interest level. Because the .emu caught my eye as well.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, these guys are on fire with the beat 'em ups.
They really are. Thank goodness.
Yeah, seriously. But if you're good to leave that there, Randall, I think I can kind of close us out for the evening here.
For sure.
Nice. Well, I've been, I actually mentioned this one on a Save It for the Cast recently, and I think I might have even mentioned it like years and years ago on the podcast, because I know I did a video for the demo of the game years and years ago, but the game's called Victory Heat Rally. I've been on a little bit of like a racing game kick, and I shouldn't say kick because I haven't played all that many of them, but I've been on, I think I've mentioned before on regular episodes or to you guys, or maybe on a Save It for the Cast, but like golf games and racing games kind of occupy a similar space in my brain where they're just kind of like once I have played it a little bit and I kind of learn, the presentation, the music, I kind of get the vibes, because I always want to get a taste of that and like experience the game, just on its own merits at first. But then after I've played it a little bit and I know the songs and I know the tracks and I'm not getting anything new other than just enjoying the gameplay of it. Like, okay, I'm just going to throw a podcast on while I play this. And like those games are just like perfect. Like I could just play the same 18 holes on whatever golf game if it's a good one. Like, I mean, obviously there's got to be more than one course of 18 holes, but I mean, I can just keep playing these games ad nauseum as long as they're good. And racing games kind of fit into that same vein, other than the fact that like I don't tend to like go back to racing games. Like it's not like I'm like, oh, let me go revisit that old one that I used to love very often, maybe once in a blue moon.
They're arcade racers, to be fair.
Yeah, that's true. And I like I will have an itch sometimes to be like, I really like, sometimes I'm like, I'd love to go to another rally game. Like, oh, I got Sega Rally Championship on the Sega Saturn, but I don't have my Sega Saturn like hooked up at the ready. And I just like, I just don't tend to like go back or even play racing games all that much in general, other than like playing Mario Kart and stuff with my friends here and there and whatnot. I used to do a little bit more of that. But what I love about Victory Heat Rally is it's kind of like, it's kind of splitting the difference between a kart racer and a full-blown arcade racing, rally game. And it's a little light on the rally, although there are some tracks that are actual, quote-unquote rally tracks in the way that they're laid out. And, you got your navigator that's like hard right, hairpin left, and like calling out the turns beforehand. And that's maybe my one gripe of the game is that sometimes like it just seems like kind of odd at like those turns that they will call out. Like you'll be like, okay, they called out that last hard left, and then I took another left that seemed just as hard as that one, but they didn't say anything about it. So I'm just like, you can't like fully rely on just listening to that navigator, at least on those rally stages. But as far as the game itself goes, it's like a pixel art game, but kind of in 3D. I don't know exactly. I don't know if they're doing some kind of, because I had to turn on when I first actually played it. And I mentioned this on the Save It for the Cast. It's like kind of got this cleaner like look to it from what I remembered from the demo. And it didn't grab me right away. I was like, man, I love this demo in this game. I don't know. I don't know what the magic was about the demo that's missing here, but I'm not loving it. And I had bought it physically on Switch and, finally got around to opening it. But then I turned on this like pixel something filter and I was like, oh, this looks more like how I remembered it. And even the feel, the sense of speed and everything just started to click and felt like how I remembered it. I don't know if it was just because I had that experience before or what. But nonetheless, like the sense of speed in this game, and again, I'm just repeating what I said on the Save It for the Cast, but it is insane. Like you are going so fast. And this is coming off of having played some Kirby Air Riders recently. And like that game does have a great sense of speed, but then something about like, then you look down at like the speedometer and it's like, I'm going 34 miles an hour. Like there's something about like, there's a disconnect between like the sense of speed and like how fast you're actually going. Like it looks like you're going fast, but it doesn't always feel like you're going fast in Kirby Air Riders. In Victory Heat Rally, it's both of those things at all times. And really the only thing different here, And I mentioned it's kind of like a kart racer meets arcade racer. The only reason I kind of compare it to a kart racer, I guess, is just kind of because the presentation and like the drifting mechanics, but there's no like weapons or anything like that. Like it's pure, you're just racing, trying to win. But the thing I love about the drifting is so you can kind of do, for example, there'll be like these kind of snaking turns on some of the rally stages, and they're not big enough. Or even think of like Mario Kart 7 or Mario Kart DS or whatever, the one that had like the snaking.
Oh, yeah.
Like you can't necessarily do that on a straightaway in this game, but what you can do is you can actually, and I guess it's a little different from the way it worked in the Mario Kart DS, because like you can essentially, if you're like boosting, or I'm sorry, not boosting, if you're drifting to the right and making a right turn and your boost meter's charging up and it's got 3 tiers of boost, but let's say you've got it like a tier and a half of the way, you can release it and just get your like 1 tier boost. Or if you got another turn coming right up, you can keep your boost or your drift like chaining between multiple turns. If you time it just right, you kind of, I guess I don't know if you have to hold it down or release the button. I kind of instinctively, as I'm like coming out of a left turn, I'll release the button and then click it right again and then start doing a drift in the opposite direction. And you can keep, it keeps building that same boost meter, and it makes a pretty big difference of like, if you hit that triple tier, like you are boosting for a pretty significant amount of time. Whereas if you just hit that first tier, it's just like a little boost, you might be able to pass, one car or something like that. But again, it's just like, there's tons of tracks. I played through the entire story, like campaign mode or whatever. And typically there's I think there's 9 different circuits. And then each circuit has like 4 or 5 different tracks that you play through individually. And you got to get like, either first, second, or third on each of those tracks. And then there's some like side missions that are like, okay, go off to the side. And it's like hit all the cones or avoid all the cones, or, just various missions on a track that'll be like, hit this many cones to get a silver medal or a bronze medal. And it's just same thing, but just a slightly different tweak. And then one of the things I really like is like after you beat one of the cups, it'll be like a Grand Prix and you do like a 4 or 5 track circuit or whatever. Mm-hmm. And you have like a rival that you're kind of like squaring off against. And they're obviously usually the toughest opponent throughout the, course of the 4 or 5 races. But then after that, if you have enough medals to like unlock the stage to square off against your rival, how you would actually like unlock that character, like they have like a car and vehicle attached to them as well. To unlock them, you do like a versus race, and it works almost like a fighting game. You have like 2 health bars, and it's just like a push and pull, like a tug of war. Whoever's ahead, there's like a little bit of a wiggle room, but you have to be a little bit past them. But like once you're more than 15 feet past them, then they start losing health and draining, and then you just have to stay ahead of them long enough until you win the race or vice versa. That. And it's pretty cool. It's like once you get good enough at the race and you learn the track and whatnot, it's pretty easy to like stay ahead of them, and just once you're ahead, there's not too much risk of losing. But I will say, like the first couple goes at it, it's like, okay, this guy is tough. Like they're just smoking me until I learn the track and kind of get it down. But that's what I love about this game is like the tracks are short enough to where like, it's not like I'm playing this a ton. I've probably put 3 or 4 hours into it so far, but like by the time I'm doing the Grand Prix, after I've played through like all the tracks individually, I've got them like not memorized, but I've got the turns are already down well enough to where it's like kind of muscle memory. And I'm like, okay, I know that it's a real sharp left and then a quick, like almost like a full U-turn around that bend and then a big jump. And it's just so over the top. Like even when you're doing your boost, if you smash into another car, they just go like flying and explode, but it doesn't really, hinder their speed all that much. It like launches them way ahead on the track. And I don't know. It's just a really, really great game that is going to become one of my go-to like Switch games. As far as like just picking it up and playing a few tracks in bed and trying to unlock these last couple racers and get some gold medals on some of the events. I did better on the races. Some of the events where it was like you have to hit the cones or do like, some of them will be like you have to do your drifting and then release your boost at just the right time so that you go through like the gates while you're boosting. Mm-hmm. And like that can get kind of tricky to like, okay, I got to make sure I charge my boost enough and release it at just the right time so I'm still boosting when I get through there, because it's like a long straightaway after the turn or something like that. But yeah, it's just a really great game. There's a few janky edges around, or a few janky elements around the edges. Just with like sometimes you'll be like, almost about to go off the track, but then you'll like the game will read you as still on the track and it'll just kind of like launch you against the rail a little bit. So it has like a few elements where it's like, oh, okay, that's a little like glitchy here and there, but at the same time, it's like the sense of speed and like the presentation. It's almost like feels like it's just part of the game, if that makes sense. And it doesn't happen often enough to where it's like, oh, this is so frustrating. The only time the game can even get minorly frustrating is like on some of those tracks where you do have to like hit a certain time and you're kind of racing against the clock. Like if you don't have the track a little bit down, like, and you do like, if you graze up against the wall and kind of come to a stop, it's like you have no chance to beat that timer, but then you don't have enough time to like keep racing and learn the track a little bit more either. So, there's just some small minor gripes, but as far as like the game itself goes, like, I can't even imagine how much fun this would be to play like against, play co-op, because I think you can play at least 2 players, if not up to 4 locally. So I'd be really curious. And I think you might even be able to play online too, but I'd be really curious to like play this because it's so like, other than learning the tracks, the gameplay is just so pick up and play. It's just like drive and drift. That's all there is to it. So, kind of back to even that Mario Strikers. It's just great to be able to like hand someone a controller that's like, if you've ever played a video game before, this drives, this turns, and this is your drift, and let's go.
And like, especially for Kirby's Air Ride, like in terms of like that sort of simplistic design of like narrowing it down to just like anytime that you're drifting, you're losing your max speed. So you have to like really deploy it at the exact moment that you need it and not like a second more.
Yep.
Interesting. Cause I had the exact opposite reaction with Kirby Air Riders. Like I'm like, there's almost too much nuance in like in the way this game controls. Like I really, it's a little frustrating to me. Like even like, and just like little weird decisions in that game where it's like to do like an attack, it's like you got to wiggle the joystick to attack. It's like there's 8 other buttons on this controller. Like what the hell?
Oh, that's an interesting change from the original.
Yeah, and it's like you're using the joystick to steer. It's the same joystick you're using to steer. So there's just some. Yeah, there's some choices in that game that I'm not loving. But to be fair, I haven't given it enough of a shot. And I did like it a lot more playing single player.
Yeah, it's its own
after,
thing.
Playing it co-op with DJ. It needs the full screen real estate. Like, I mentioned on Victory Heat Rally, like learning the tracks. Like you definitely need to do that on Kirby Air Riders before it starts to be a little bit more fun.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Because there's some cool elements in that game too. I really love, I don't know if this was in the original, but like, all the characters will kind of drop this like trail of stars behind them and you can kind of like scoop those up. And that's kind of like almost like how you draft behind cars in Mario Kart. But it's like you can actually see the things you're like consuming to build up that meter. So it's pretty cool. But yeah, it's interesting that you made that comparison because I felt kind of opposite. But what were you about to say?
Well, no, I was just thinking like as you were describing like what you've been doing, did I bring up that I was playing like a bunch of like Wipeout successors?
I don't think so. No.
Yeah, I've been playing both Red Out Enhanced Edition and Ballistic NG. Red Out as sort of the like
Red Out
modern evolution of Wipeout. And Ballistic NG being more of like the faithful recreation of like the PS1 N64 era, like Wipeout 64 tracks. And like even with the lower poly like or lower fidelity graphics that you can turn on if you want. But like playing both of those, like I was like trying to figure out, you're learning the levels, so I was expecting to just like die a lot because you crash and wipe out a ton. It's Formula 5000 racing is what it is. So like you're at the mercy of hitting the pit crew and repairing your ship before the lap ends. But the similar thing of like, okay, I don't really understand how drift exactly works in this title, and switching between the 2 titles was a mistake because drift mechanics are completely different. But one of them I like distinctly remember playing it and like, oh yeah, this kind of handles exactly like Kirby's Air Ride does in terms of like the swerve star in particular was one where if you would like start to drift, you would almost come to a stop. And so like you had to like hit it immediately and like adjust yourself so that you're making a lot of like fine tune drifting like adjustments as you're doing it. But like these games like Red Out, you're going like I don't know, 1,000 kilometers an hour, like, and the like landscapes zooming past you. But
I love that sense of speed in a video game. I don't know what it is about it, but like it can just, when it's done right, it can feel just so satisfying to pick up this sense of momentum where, like, especially on like in Victory Heat Rally, to go back to that, like on the rally stages, like, because you're not doing like these laps and like going around and repeating anything, like I don't know why, but like when you can get a smooth run going on those, like you can just really get ripping. But that said, there are some of the circuit tracks, like some of them almost feel like they're literally almost look like they're like an old like wooden roller coaster, like the way they're laid out. And like you're zipping around and like going all around, doing not necessarily a loop-de-loo upside down, but you're like hitting a big jump and then doing a huge U-turn, like going up like almost in a spiral. Like there's just some really, really satisfying elements to the sense of speed and just the way they present it with like the pixel art, but in 3D. It's just very, very awesome.
It's
and the
pretty,
music,
it's really
I didn't even
vibrant too.
Yeah, very vibrant. It feels very Sega. In a lot of ways. And I didn't even mention the music, but it is slamming. Oh my God, the music is slamming. The sense of energy is just unmatched in most racing games. It's just got like that, I don't know, again, that like real spastic Sega energy to the music as well. And I really, really like it.
Yeah, I'm going to be checking that one out. Looks kind of like a super scalar game, like some of the games I talked about, but this one being a racer, obviously. So yeah, I'm into it.
It's definitely awesome. Yeah. And back to like the jankiness. Yeah, that's some of like where you'll do a turn. And I mentioned this on the Save It for the Cast too. And it's like the car will turn more than like how the visuals look like they're turning. So like, yeah, there's just times where it's like you can tell this is like a 2D sprite just like kind of slapped onto this like pseudo 3D image. But most of the time, it doesn't really, like, especially when you're moving full speed, it just looks awesome.
I don't mind that as an effect, to be honest.
And no, it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. It can throw off for me when I first started playing. It actually kind of affected my steering because like your car would like it feels like it's like an 8-directional sprite where there's like your car is either going straight or it's like turned 45 degrees or 90 degrees. So it's like you have more control of like the nuance of the steering, but like you're just reading the visual of like, oh shit, I'm turning too hard. And then you're like, oh no, but I'm not. I'm just tapping the joystick. It's just reading that I'm turning to the right. So it's like, you know, my car's just kind of jittering back and forth. It can look a little jarring at first, but again, once you get the hang of it, it's no issue whatsoever.
I'm assuming you're playing on Switch too.
Yeah, I'm playing. It's a Switch version of the game that I have physically, but yeah, I'm playing on the Switch too, and it runs super smooth. Yeah, nice. No issue that I've noticed whatsoever. Maybe like once in a while, I can't tell if like every once in a while when there's like a little transition screen where like a garage door like opens and closes, there might be like one frame that like disappears during that or something, but definitely nothing while I'm playing or anything, which is impressive because this game is definitely running fast.
Right,
man, the sense of speed is unmatched. I know I've said that already, but it is really satisfying to get whipping on these tracks.
Nice.
The only thing I have remaining to do in the game, I've got all the cups. I got a gold on almost all of them except for 2 of the 9. And then on the final, like it unlocked after I beat all those or finished like the campaign, it unlocked this final cup that's like a 9 race, like kind of all in one Grand Prix. And I thought it was going to be all the rally tracks in the game up to that point, and because the first 2 I think were rallies or maybe even 3, and then the 4th one was just a regular circuit. And I was like, you know what, I don't have it in me to do all 9 of these right now, and it wouldn't let me save in the middle. So I was like, I'm gonna come back to this eventually. But just a fantastic game that I'm really glad I like didn't just write it off immediately and go, it's not the same as the demo. They changed it too much, because I don't know what I was even thinking that first time I played it, because it feels great, just as good as it did the demo.
Nice.
Or when I checked out the demo. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, definitely recommended it. But recommended to both you guys, but it does seem like more of a Randall, or specifically, you know, more down Rand. But if you've been playing Wipeout stuff, you know, definitely speaking your language too, John. So
I'm in that mode right now.
Heck yeah.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I'm probably good to wrap it up there for the evening on my end as well. And I'll hopefully give Kirby Air Riders some more time down the road here, because I do want to give that game a full fair shot. But there isn't like in that game, there isn't like a campaign that like, I guess I could play that like city mode or whatever it's called.
That's more of an event mode than
it's like and it feels like the race mode is just like pick the track and race against some random computer people, and there's not like a
time attack,
like a mode.
Just get the best time that you possibly can.
Yeah. I need a rival. I just something about like throwing a rival into the mix to just like, this is who you're racing against, even though you know you're gonna beat them. Like I just need a rival. But anyways, unless anybody else has anything they want to throw into the mix before we wrap things up for the evening here, I think we're pretty good to close things out there.
Yes, sir.
Good deal. Well, as always, you can find us on the internet at pursuingpixels.com, or just look up Pursuing Pixels and you'll probably find us somewhere around there. And until next week, we will catch you then, and take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Something about the way you said that, John, and you won't know this. There was a store around here called Mr. Allen's. I don't think they're around anymore. But they would sell
shorts,
like
baby.
Yeah, they'd sell like shoes, like basketball, like like and one
2 for $50
gear. Yeah, like everything. All their deals would be like 29 or 2 for $50.
Oh, nice. That was a pretty good Mr. Allen. Nice.
Have you guys seen Detroiters?
$10.
So I have not, but I'm sure Tim Robinson would be like making fun of that. If he, I would not be surprised. Is there something like that in there?
That's what the entire show is. Just they're a local ad agency, but then it's like
God.
Kind of there's like, oh yeah, we're Mad Men, but for all of the cable like local advertisements, and like they are also not good at their jobs.
You don't need to be good at your job. Yeah, that's
need to
amazing.
watch that show.
Yeah, me too. That sounds
it's my favorite thing he's done.
Ooh.